This week I'm driving the 2021 Chevrolet Suburban Duramax. This is the largest SUV available on the market. So this week, Chevy Suburban. The Suburban is the extended version of the Chevy Tahoe. If you want to go check out my previous reviews of the Tahoe Z71, I'm going to put the link in the description. So this one's a bit larger, a bit longer than the Tahoe. First of all, this one's a pretty well-equipped Suburban. This is a Premier. We've got some nice 22 inches wheels. One of the key features to see the difference between a Tahoe and a Suburban, it's really the rear door. On the Suburban, the door is really straight, and on the Tahoe, it's gonna follow the line of the rear fender. And obviously, this one's longer, so it's about a foot longer than the Tahoe. And obviously, due to the extended version, we've got more cargo in the trunk. Speaking of the trunk, this is the largest trunk you can get on the SUV market. Yes, this Suburban is the largest one. So we've got way much more space behind that third row. So inside of the Suburban, you don't gain any space in the first, second, or last row. But it's really in the trunk, so if you want to carry more stuff with a lot of people inside, once you put all the seats down, you can have up to 4,097 liters of cargo space. And once again, this is the best in class. Under the hood of the Suburban, you can have three optional engines. So the standard one is a V8 5.3. You can opt also for the Duramax like this one. And if you step up to the high country model, you can step up to the V8 6.2 liter. But this week we've got the Duramax diesel engine. It's a 6-cylinder inline 3-liter turbo, good for 277 horsepower and 460 foot-pounds of torque. So you get the same amount of torque as the V8 6.2 liter, but this one's gonna be way better on the fuel economy side. And it's the first time, you know, the Suburban's got a diesel under the hood, so it should be pretty interesting. All right, on the road with the Suburban diesel. You know, it's been several big GM SUV I drove lately. 2 Tahoes, 2 Yukons, 2 Escalade, and finally I've got the diesel one. So, you know, on the road, the Suburban is comfortable. Like the other models, it's just a bit longer, but it's not that big, you know. I would say my previous truck, my GMC Sierra IT4, crew cab with a short box, it's probably the same length as this truck. So it's not super big, I could say. Some people are like, oh, this is a big truck, it should be hard to drive and park. It's not the case, you know, especially if you're used to drive pickup trucks. On the road, super comfortable, perfect truck to do a long road trip. Even if this week we don't have the fancy air suspension and the magnetic shocks and all that, it's still comfortable. Obviously, if you live like where I live here in Quebec, you have rougher roads. It's always better to have a little bit chunkier tires, like on 20 inches, not 22s. Those are a bit rougher on the road, I could say, but still a really nice ride inside of this Suburban. Speaking of the inside of the Suburban, this one's a Premier, so it's a really nice interior. This one is a beige, light color. It's not my favorite. I prefer always a darker color, especially for a family truck, you know. But still, you know, a really nice interior. We have screens in the back, plenty of space in the second and the last row. If you want to see more details about the interior, the metal console moves, the screen, the cameras and all that, I go a little bit deeper in my previous reviews of the Tahoe Z71. I'm going to put the link in the description if you guys want to go check out these previous reviews. But overall, you know, this week, Suburban, you know, you got more space in the trunk, like I said before. With the diesel, you've got some decent performance, a lot of torque, under 100 kilometers an hour. It's pretty decent, it's not slow. Obviously the V8 6.2 liter, you get better performance out of this. but it's a bit harder on the fuel. I think it's really worth it to invest that extra $2,000 optional engine over the V8's 5.3 liter. The V8 5.3 liter, it's not a powerhouse of power, I could say, and it's not really good on fuel economy, especially on my previous test. So the Duramax is really worth it. It doesn't make a lot of noise. It's probably even quieter than the V8, so you barely hear the engine once you're inside of the cabin. So that's a big plus. Speaking of fuel economy, this week I was averaging around 10 liters per 100 kilometers. This is pretty good for a big SUV like this one. And this week I was doing a lot of city, a lot of like small road driving, not a lot of highway. I could say if you do a lot of highways, you probably can go down in the 9 and the 8 liters per 100 kilometers. You know, these kind of numbers we never saw these kind of numbers before, especially a large Suburban like this one. You know, I'm beating the numbers of the Ford F-150 Power Boost I had last week, and it's the latest hybrid technology and all that. You know, a small diesel engine for me, it's always the good choice, especially the GM ones. You get such a good fuel economy out of these engine. And here lately, here in Quebec, the diesel is cheaper than the gasoline. So again, it's a big plus. You can do probably 1,000 kilometers with one tank. So, you know, you've got a big combo of a lot of things that are practical with the Suburban. You can carry a lot of people, up to 9s, depending on the configuration inside. This one's a 7-passenger, but you can have a 7, 8, or 9. You got good fuel economy. You got a real 4x4. You can bring a lot of luggage. You can tow with the Suburban also. If you choose the Suburban version with the Duramax, you can tow up to 8,000 pounds and still get some good fuel economy numbers. This thing can do pretty much everything, and I think, you know, myself, I drive a GMC Yukon, so obviously I love these kind of big SUVs. They're so practical, especially when you have a bunch of kids. When you have more than 2, 3 kids, you have no choice to choose something like that. And you know, GM is really stepping up the game by offering this new diesel powertrain. And for me, it's just like they should have put the diesel way before now. It's just like, it just makes sense to have that powertrain under the hood. It's so worth it for me. I have no words to explain how much like everything in this truck makes sense. Speaking of price, you know, you can have a base Suburban for $62,348. And the model I'm driving this week, it's a pretty well-equipped Suburban. It's $94,618. Pretty expensive, the one I'm driving. Obviously, for this kind of price, you can choose also the Yukon XL, or even maybe stepping up in the Escalade. But you know, if you want something practical, you don't need all the screen in the back, the big sunroof, all the fancy, you know, equipment and all that. I think for $65,000, $70,000, you get a pretty practical truck, a pretty good truck. And one major key point, the Duramax optional engine is just $2,000 more, and this option is not something it's going to cost more because you're choosing a less equipped Suburban. If you choose the LS, the LT, the Premier, or the High Country, it's always like kind of like the same price, so it's really worth it. So in some models, if we look at the F-150, the Ram, the Jeeps and all that, when you choose the optional diesel engine, sometimes it's $4,000, $5,000, sometimes even $7,000 option. In those cases, this is really expensive, and sometimes it's not really worth it. But for $2,000 more, I think you can easily catch up that extra price with the fuel economy you're gonna get compared to the normal V8 you can get with the Suburban. So overall, I think these new big SUVs with the diesel are crushing everything on the market. Nothing really compete against these packaging, I could say. I know the EcoBoost engine and the Expedition can get some decent numbers, but not the diesel numbers. So overall on the market, if you look at Ford or even at the Jeep with the new Wagoneer, Grand Wagoneer, I know we don't have any numbers yet, but I'm pretty sure the Hemi 5.7 liters or the V8 6.4 liter you can get in the Grand Wagoneer won't be really good on the fuel economy side. So, you know, these new Suburban with the Duramax are really tough to beat. So let me know in the comments, do you think the Suburban Duramax is the ultimate SUV to go on a road trip with your family, or you've got something special you had in mind and I didn't think about it? Let me know in the comments. So don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. I'm gonna also put some links to my Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of that in the description, and we're gonna see each other on the next review.